If you were born from 2003 up to 2008, you grew up during a very interesting time in the gaming world. Loot boxes and battle passes are everywhere. However, while games that have these functionalities get a lot of hate due to the nature they brought to the gaming industry, with money-hungry corporations taking advantage of this new way of making money in video games, it didn't start with loot boxes and battle passes. We need to go all the way back to the 1980s to see where in-game purchases really started. In 1986, an incredible game called Habitat was created. If you've never heard of Habitat, don't worry, you are not the only one. Habitat is one of the earliest MMOs developed by Lucasfilm Games, later called LucasArts. It was one of the first attempts at creating a virtual community that was graphic-based. The game was very ahead of its time, with having towns, shops, wilderness areas, and social spaces for players to meet. The developers even intended for Habitat to be more than just a game. They were wanting the game to be designed as a virtual society. Sound familiar? But what stands out the most is Habitat introduced the earliest concept of microtransactions. You were allowed to use real money to purchase Habitat tokens, which would be purchased through Q-Link billing. Players could also earn tokens by playing, trading, or running a virtual business. What would players use these tokens for? The same things gamers purchase today: cosmetics. You could buy clothing, furniture, custom avatar heads, weapons, decorative items, you name it. If we fast forward 14 years later, we start to see the rise of paying for cosmetics with real money, specifically The Sims. At this point, Habitat was really the only game that implemented an in-game store, and if you know gaming history, you would know that between 1986 and 2000, subscription-based games were starting to trickle in. That'll be another video though. Sims provided the player to buy the base game. However, EA and Maxis decided to introduce downloadable item packs shortly after the game's release. Players could visit the official Sims website and purchase new furniture, clothing, and decorative objects for their Sims homes. These purchases would be considered small microtransactions compared to what people pay nowadays. But even with the website, in-game shops were still not popular and not really implemented. There would be games like RuneScape or Second Life, but they started to implement subscription-based money-making and in-game economies, not really an in-game store. However, in 2003, there was an online sensation that took over the internet: MapleStory. MapleStory is a 2D MMO side-scrolling platformer game with RPG progression. Players could have character classes, with each class having unique abilities and skill trees. Players could do co-op boss fights, party quests, and explore the vast open world. There would be dungeons, hidden areas, you name it. There would be a strong emphasis on social interaction with players, guilds, and trading. However, even though MapleStory was free to play, they introduced a fully integrated cash shop within the game client. You would be able to access this shop through the game's menu and use premium currency that you would purchase with real money, and items bought would appear instantly in the player's cash inventory. Now, you could take a simple guess on what people would buy, such as outfits, hats, hairstyles, mounts, all sorts of stuff. Games like League of Legends would take the same model of making money by providing a free game but in-store purchases of skins. Many games actually would implement this, but this was one of the final dominoes to fall, which would cause a catastrophic controversy when it comes to in-game purchases. If you've played video games for a while now, you know where I'm leading up to. In 2005, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion was released. Now, this game speaks for itself, especially with the remake being released earlier this year, but in 2006, there would be a DLC that would affect both in-game stores and DLCs altogether. Bethesda thought it would be a fantastic idea to have players pay for horse armor in a DLC, calling it the Horse Armor Pack. The price would be $2.50 on Xbox Live Marketplace, or 200 Microsoft points. The pack would only include cosmetic armor that provided no gameplay advantage. Now, I do want you to take note that every other game I mentioned had in-game stores or websites that allowed you to buy cosmetics. So why was this a huge issue? Keyword: DLC. DLC meaning downloadable content, not cosmetics. DLC should be either expansions, new levels, or even simply just new content. I do believe the reason this got so much backlash was due to simply how they presented the Horse Armor Pack. Calling it DLC was a huge mistake. Out of this controversy, however, sparked a new way of companies getting money. The Horse Armor DLC did well enough to where other companies tried to implement this same format of making money. Fast forward to 2007, we see Team Fortress 2 implementing a game-as-a-service type of monetization. Team Fortress 2, known for its humor, art style, and highly replayable objective-based maps, implemented what we see today as loot boxes. Loot boxes or crates would allow the player to get cosmetic hats, weapons, and tools for trading and crafting. These boxes required paid keys to open. With this method, Valve would receive multi-millions from the tactic of making money. At this point, a lot of people started to see where the gaming industry was starting to lean towards. Even when MapleStory came out, people started to see trends. Now we will skip a few years and start to head towards games a lot of people know today, such as Overwatch and Fortnite. In 2016, Overwatch was created as a hero-based team shooter. In the 6v6 hero shooter, you would pick a character that would have unique abilities and roles such as tank, DPS, or healer. What would set a player apart from winning or losing would be the team coordination and response to the other team. The characters you would be able to choose had different cosmetic options. How would you buy these cosmetic options? Yep, you guessed it. The in-game store of Overwatch would have loot boxes that you could open with a chance to win cosmetics, stickers, and even play of the game clips, like this one. Some controversy again would begin to spew as people started to debate that gambling mechanics were starting to make their way into video games. This would lead to many regulatory investigations in several countries. I hope though by now you can kind of see the domino effect that one game had on the gaming industry as a whole. I won't go too deep into Fortnite since we are still experiencing the battle pass and in-game store effect that Fortnite has dawned on this world. That will be another video. In summary though, in-game stores have created a gray line of what should be paid with real money and what should be earned in games. If it were up to me, I would love for all cosmetics to be earned in-game and have a trading economy within the game. A lot of games even do this, such as World of Warcraft and even Rocket League at one point. But purchasing a cosmetic with real money simply does not make sense to me since you gain no content besides seeing something cool. However, if you don't mind paying top dollar for a cosmetic made in Blender, more power to you. Everyone has their differing opinions, but I do believe that since real money is being used outside of buying the base game, this has created a real issue for people who don't want to actually play the game, but look like they play the game by having the best gear at level 1. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and comment down below on your thoughts about in-game stores. We touched a little on subscriptions and battle passes, but that will be another video. If you haven't already, you can follow me on Twitch or TikTok for gameplay clips, and I will see you in the next video.